Baci Sospesi, un progetto di Barbara Sbrocca.
Well, as far as a click moment where I realized that something wasn't working, that's something that's happened to me in a couple relationships that I then completely ignored. I've always had trouble letting go, and I realized, of course, now in hindsight with these relationships, that when I had a partner, I felt completely responsible for their happiness forever. So even when, the writing was on the wall in bright neon paint that this is not working out, I couldn't seem to let go. And in one particular relationship, my longest and most tempestuous, we were together for almost 10 years. And I believe that the click moment that this wasn't working out came within that first year. And I ignored it. He was a terrible alcoholic, and I also struggled with alcoholism. But I would say that his addiction problem was worse than mine, and my codependency issue was worse than his. He needed me, and I would resent him for it. I have to take care of him, and he doesn't take care of me in the same way, but I didn't have to do anything. I chose to. And it was also a big aha moment that actually helped me recognize the fact that I had these codependency issues and then work toward, stopping that, healing it, was that I made him sicker unintentionally, because a lot of my behaviors, part of me did want him to get better, but I remember feeling like, I guess, a failure, like I could still fix it somehow, and that I would be a failure if I didn't try to fix it. I didn't like being alone, but it was strange because when I have a partner, if he was too much needing me to be with him or too controlling, especially, I would resist. I need my space. But if he didn't act in that way, I would think, well, he doesn't care about me. Either way, I'm not happy, and then I would end up doing things that sabotage the relationship. I didn't see any healthy romantic relationships modeled for me as a child. My parents' relationship, they divorced when I was about 4, and it was very chaotic when they were married. I've had some flashbacks of it. I actually developed a dissociative disorder, and that only came up in 2019. I started having flashbacks and going into dissociative states and not knowing why. My father remarried when I was about 7, and this woman was very, very sweet to me up until the point where she had the ring on her finger, and then she was nasty. My father kind of told me all of his problems in this relationship. I was very enmeshed with my father and his emotions and needing him to be happy. And a lot of that was just me trying to fill a void in me. And I had a man recently who pointed that out to me. And this is when I started to make the hard realizations of my behavior. Because I felt like some sort of victim, especially in this 10-year relationship. I felt like I was stuck. I felt like some martyr. And really, that wasn't the case at all. Are you familiar with polyamorous relationships? I kind of got into that after the 10-year relationship. And it's funny because I thought it drew me in because it's like, oh, love and abundance sounds great. But really, it was because I actually had a terrible commitment phobia. which I didn't realize, because how could I be commitment phobic? I had a 10-year relationship, I had a 4-year relationship before that, but I was never really all in. And the only way I would leave a relationship, the 3 like serious boyfriends I've had that you'd actually call as a couple, I met the next one before I left the preceding one. That was the only thing that would get me to leave a relationship. I met someone new. But with the polyamorous stuff, I laugh now too that I didn't see this, because this was only like 3 years ago. It was really just me getting around these commitment issues. It was, I actually feel more comfortable when the man has another woman, because it takes some of the pressure off me to take care of him. You know, codependency is also a control issue. And I was all big into, I'm not a controlling girlfriend. And then being in a poly dynamic, see, look how not controlling I am. I don't even care if this man is sleeping with another woman. But I was controlling in a different way. You know, I needed to control his life experience so he didn't suffer, and put my opinion on him and kind of direct his life in a certain way. The longest relationship, we actually did break up a couple times in the middle and then got pulled back together. And one time we broke up and I thought it was over. We had a really awful fight. Oof, it was really bad. And I didn't talk to him for a few months. And then he calls me one night and then boom, just like that, I'm back moving in with him. It was just, now I'm like, oh my God, we put each other through a lot of misery. Because he had a lot of pain in him too. And we were just kind of projecting our pain at each other. The beginning of 2019, I was in a really bad spot. I was living with my ex, who was drinking very heavily. I didn't really have a job. We were going to lose our apartment. And I was drinking. Like, I wanted to quit, but I was still drinking. And I was drunk one day and slipped in the bathroom and hit the tub just right and broke a couple ribs. And that ended up being a catalyst for me. The things that unfolded after that, I don't mind putting my business out there usually, but this is tough for me to admit that I was still with my ex, and we were, it was basically, we were just roommates at that point. I told him I wanted to leave, and, it was going to be done, and we were going to lose the apartment anyway. I met another man, and I was in a sexual relationship with him while I was technically still with my ex, and this man had a girlfriend, and they were living together and everything. So I was essentially the side chick, and all our mutual friends knew about it, and for some reason I wasn't ashamed of that. It just, now I cringe at it that I did something like that. And then this man at one point he said he wanted a relationship with me. I broke up with my ex in the spring of 2019. I moved out. I found a place. This other man I was sleeping with said he wanted, a serious relationship with me. He loves me. And I kind of freaked out. And I had feelings for him, for sure. He was the one who showed me that I had these codependency issues. So for that, I'm really grateful. He was another one I had trouble letting go of. And when he wanted to be more serious with me, I backed off. But then when he was less available to me, I would get anxious, like, where is he? So it was still the damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. So the past 3 years has really been a process it's been a slow process of figuring out what my wounds were and working through them. I feel like the broken ribs it feels very symbolic for me. I didn't think I had broken anything. Just the next day, there was this massive, epic bruise on my side that kind of freaked me out. And I think the bruise was so dramatic because I was a heavy drinker. I was just, I was properly anesthetized with alcohol when the incident happened, but I went to bed, and the next morning I woke up and tried to sit up, and I screamed. I took myself to the hospital. I hate to say that a part of me actually liked being injured because it was getting me this attention. I had myself in this place where I was not going to be happy no matter what a man did, really. And I did not see it. I would have such anger in my relationships. Sometimes I would be in a rage out of nowhere, but I refused to see that too. I would always say, well, he must have done something. But really, it was a lot of repressed rage from my childhood toward my father. Even one of the counselors that I saw in 2019, he said to me one time, you talk a lot about your mother. I would rant about how my mother had destroyed my psyche as a child. But he said, you never mention your father. I said, everything was great with him. It was just so repressed. I felt as a kid that my father didn't stick up for me. When my mother she was unpredictable. She would yell a lot. And then his second wife, he didn't stick up for me with her either. She was emotionally abusive. One time she actually hit me. I told my father, I think I was about 8. She said, no, I didn't. She's lying. And then shortly after, I don't know if it was the next day or a few days after, I went over to the computer to play with it, and there was a letter my father had written. I don't know if it was an email or what, but I remember very clearly talking about the incident. It says that Elizabeth hit her. I don't know who to believe because can be a manipulative kid. And I don't know if that's a big word for a kid that age, but I knew what it meant. And I remember being confused. How could I be manipulative when I'm telling the truth? And then that's all. I don't remember it bothering me. And I repressed a lot. That would have been too much for me to think. Not only does he not believe me, but he thinks I have some malicious intent on top of it. Especially because I never felt fully safe and connected with my mother, and I put my father on this huge pedestal. So the anger from that incident was trapped inside of me. Even though I was still kind of involved with this man in the past couple of years, more I felt like I was single, and he wasn't letting me be codependent with him, which was a gift. So it kind of forced me to process all the pain underneath all that anger that I had. I've heard that to heal relationship issues, the best way to do it is within a relationship. And the relationship with this guy did help me heal, but it was also a lot I had to do on my own. I don't know if my codependency issues are fully 100% healed, but it's a huge difference. Now, if a man is like, poor me, or, in the victim mentality, I'm like, okay, that's your problem. So, to some extent, I have healed that, and I don't have the anger that I used to, which is great, because I realized I was actually addicted to this anger because it was keeping me from feeling what was underneath. When I did finally feel it, it was so intense. I had this heartbroken feeling, like my chest got cracked open. And then under that, there was a whole lot of shame. I just felt like I wanted to keep taking a shower. I just felt disgusted with myself. And all that shame was underneath that anger. I was terrified when I graduated law school. I didn't do anything with a degree. I was also, I was a mess. But one of the things recently I was looking at getting into is divorce mediation. I felt like as a kid I was always trying to be the peacemaker. And I connected with a woman who's a divorce coach, and she said one of the things she focuses on is betrayal trauma. And that can be in a relationship if your partner cheats, but it can also, most of the time, it comes from childhood, especially if you're young and it's a caregiver, like that you entrust that person implicitly, because a kid has no choice, really. And when that trust is betrayed, and I always thought, well, nothing really bad happened to me as a kid. Besides the stepmom hitting me, I wasn't physically abused, but there was stuff I didn't remember, and then there was stuff I deeply repressed that I took as a deep betrayal, especially my father not sticking up for me, and what that kind of does to your psyche. And then in these relationships, I wasn't worried about being cheated on. I was the one that was cheating. It was like, get him before he gets me kind of thing. But the damage to like your ability to trust yourself, I think, is the worst part of that. I didn't trust myself with anything. I'm still working on that, but I especially didn't trust myself to, like, when I got the click moments, this isn't working, I didn't trust my instincts. It's crazy how I never knew any of this. Talk about trusting yourself. I moved a couple weeks ago. I started a new business. I have, a couple other projects I'm working on. And I've had moments, actually one just this morning, or the past couple of days, I woke up like kind of panicky. Like, did I make the right decision coming here? What am I doing? But it's a lot better. It's like your intuition whispers. So sometimes the wounded ego still screams at me, but when it goes away, I'm like, no, I made the right decision. If I look back even like early 2019, I don't know who that version of me, was. It's crazy to me. But especially with moving, that really involves a lot of trust, because I have this history of escaping anywhere, in a job, in a relationship, even with a certain emotion. My mind starts going, you gotta get out while you still can. Or sometimes I ask myself, do I trust myself to get into like a serious relationship? Am I going to do the same things? I don't think so. I feel like I'd be a pretty amazing partner to somebody right now. I'll see when that happens. I guess, we'll see. But yeah.
Baci Sospesi, un progetto di Barbara Sbrocca.